You are listening to Not on the Payroll right here at notonthepayroll.com. You check us out at Facebook, check us out at YouTube, check us out at Rumble. Today we have the privilege of sitting down with Sal. Pronounce your last name?
Baldovinos.
Sal Baldovinos. I just didn't want to break it up there for you. Sal is actually, you are the administrator or one of the administrators of Concerned Citizens for Tyler County.
Correct.
Now, first of all, you didn't grow up in Tyler County, correct?
I did not, no.
Okay.
We moved here in 2016 from Houston.
From Houston, okay. So you're what locals would call an outsider.
Very much so.
Okay. So tell me how you got into this, into Concerned Citizens. Tell me how that came about. Give us a little bit of insight as to how that thing manifested.
About 6 years ago, which is when we started the Facebook page, there was a industrial slaughterhouse that was wanting to establish its presence here in Tyler County, specifically 0.8 miles from Woodville city limits.
Okay.
It was a big to-do. It was a big uproar. It was probably one of the largest gatherings that I've ever seen in Woodville at our city hall. A group of us, about 8 of us, were meeting before that city council meeting where they were going to sign the memorandum of understanding to allow them to move in. And within that group, it became fairly obvious, just because I'm pretty outgoing, I'm pretty well spoken, I can conjugate my verbs and all of that good stuff. And they just said, Sal, you're going to speak. You're going to go to the city council and you're going to represent what we're trying to do. And so I, along with another young lady, she went as Concerned Citizens of Woodville. And because I was outside of the city limits, I took on the name Concerned Citizens of Tyler County. We made our case for why we didn't want a slaughterhouse here. And when I'm saying the streets were packed and lined with people who were opposed to it, it's just a breathtaking photo to see. And Beaumont Enterprise covered it. A couple other local agencies covered it. And so we needed a way to get the information out there.
Okay.
And it became very apparent that, with the exception of the booster, there was no media that was going to cover it, nor could they cover it in any capacity that we were needing to, meaning mass information dumps, mass
daily access
mm-hmm. to the information. And when I say I researched slaughterhouses till my face turned blue, it's no joke. I learned more about slaughterhouses and just the underbelly of what happens. And this isn't to say, the family run slaughterhouses. We were talking about the big industrial. This was going to be 10,000 head of cattle and sheep and goats, mass. This wasn't a little, hole in the wall slaughterhouse. This was going to be a big deal, and it was going to impact not only our socioeconomical area. The demographics would ultimately change. Had they moved in now and we're 6 years into it, Tyler County would not look the same. Jasper, Newton County would not look the same as well,
right,
just because of the migratory and just demographic change that ends up happening with that type of industry.
Sure.
They were talking about employing 200 people at any given time, and I'm sitting here looking around, and Tractor Supply and Walmart always have a now hiring sign, and I can't imagine, well, if I could just get a job getting paid $15 an hour at Walmart to say hello, why would I stand in ankle deep blood just to say that I'm a part of this growing industry of the slaughterhouse? And none of what the information that they presented was accurate or true. They were very shady about what they were presenting and how they went around it.
Well, they were trying to sell it to the community.
And what we did as Concerned Citizens, it's actually how I met Neil Alderman, was during that whole ordeal. We needed an online presence to do that. My background in marketing and web design and social media lended itself to that availability. Because I worked from home, I could just post a quick update. Hey, did you know this information about a slaughterhouse? Hey, here's a Dateline expose on these particular slaughterhouses and the sex trade and the human trade that was going on.
Wow.
Imagine if that was to come to Tyler County.
Yeah.
And Tyler County is known as the dogwood capital, and it's dogwood time in Tyler County is a big deal. And so for a long time we would use that as, hey, imagine it's dogwood time in Tyler County. but now we're going to have to change the slogan to "It's Dogwood Time in Tyler County." Ooh, what's that smell?
Right.
And we just didn't want that to permeate throughout the community, and so we utilized social media, and we used the website protecttylercounty.com to get the information out there, and that's all it was about, is getting the information out there.
So so really that's kind of that was kind of the fireworks that started this thing.
Exactly.
And so at this point, now how many years ago was that?
2016.
So that's 2016, so it's been 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
So since then, the objective of Concerned Citizens, and where people can find Concerned Citizens, obviously is going to be over at Facebook, Concerned Citizens for Tyler County. So if you're in Tyler County and you want to review what Sal's doing and what the other administrators are putting on there, go over to Facebook and check it out at Concerned Citizens for Tyler County. So since then, now obviously there's been a lot of things going on. It was kind of, I wouldn't say it was a turbulent end to or a turbulent time here around elections, but a lot of information in a lot of different directions and a lot of different opinions and thought processes about current administration or regime, however you want to look at that, and the potential of making a change that would affect the community. What's really what are some of the things? Because I know there was a lot of stuff going on. I mean, there's a lot of opinions out here, but what are you kind of seeing? What are you kind of seeing here in Tyler County as the beaver dam, if you will, for progress and moving forward? I mean, obviously nobody wants to talk about progress because they automatically equate that to transgenderism and all other kinds of stuff. But we're talking about progressively growing the community in such a way that it's healthy.
Exactly. And that was one of the big touch points of the slaughterhouse fight, is we're not against industry. Myself, Neil Alderman, who was one of the forward-facing administrators, we weren't against industry.
Right.
The wood chip mill and the pellet mill, they're here. We can't do anything about that. Our objective had never been to shut anyone down.
Right.
When it came to the slaughterhouse and when it came to other types of industry that were trying to move in here or would like to move in here, it's merely about education. If you want to welcome this, at least have all the facts. Be an informed consumer, voter. Same thing with the election, as you brought up. I don't care how you vote. I would like for you to vote the way that I think is the right way, and I think you would want me to vote the way you want me to. But at the end of the day, as long as we're both informed voters, as long as we're both informed about who's on the ballot, what they represent, and we're not just circling R or D for the sake of doing so, and we can't do it anyways anymore, I think it just creates a better dialogue, and it doesn't lead to the types of arguments that I've had online with some of the community members, just because they want to stop the conversation when they hear trigger words like ignorant or illiterate, and they don't like the quiet things being spoken out loudly. And as a transplant here, when I look around and I see the potential, you and I talked about this before we started going, there's so much potential. And if the community doesn't want to grow, they're not sending the right messages, because they're telling other community leaders, we don't want to grow. We don't want that here. Yeah. But at the same time, they're saying, why can't we have a Chick-fil-A? Yeah. Why can't we have a natatorium for kids? Why can't we have a recreation place for kids? Well, you have to have bodies. Yeah. You have to have people. You have to attract the right people.
Sure.
My good friend Neil Alderman ran on this for his campaign, is we've got to sell this place. You don't sell your home without doing a little bit of upgrading, without doing a little bit of modernization. And if you're trying to sell your house as is, you're going to get as is. You're not going to get the best in terms of offers to buy your home. So, continuing that analogy, if we can spruce up the place, if we can make it better, make it more attractive, bring in those types of industries that will help flourish and grow, why not? But if it is a detriment to the community, if it's an environmental impact, much like the slaughterhouse would have been, then Concerned Citizens was there to say, hey, at least look at this information.
Yeah.
We may not be able to stop them. Thankfully, we did.
Right.
We may not be able to stop them, but at least know what you're getting yourself into. Don't just say 200 jobs, let's go, and stop the conversation there.
Yeah. I think a lot of times narratives get started in these small communities, and if the narrative is 200 jobs, everybody's willing to start sacrificing babies and all kind of stuff to do that, and I use that figuratively, but it's not too far from the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's almost like, these small towns all suffer from the same delusions or small communities. And really it feels like to me that there's there is a beaver dam when it comes to wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and this type of thing. If it doesn't look like the path we've been running, then obviously we're doomed moving forward. And I think that kind of, I was interested to see how the election played out here in the county. Obviously, Milton Powers ended up winning the judge's seat, and maybe he will do some good things to move the community forward and to position, because a lot of it is positioning. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is positioning for the influx of everybody leaving Beaumont and Houston, and everybody wants to be up here by 69. I mean, everybody wants to be up on 96. Everybody wants to be up on 87 because it's the easiest access to these lakes.
Right.
And to me, it almost seems like we need leaders who are positioners that can position the community in such a way to where they're willing to, or they're able to receive some of these benefits.
And I hope that's the case. Unfortunately, what I saw from the campaign and on the power side of the fence was a lot of the same old thing.
Yeah.
I didn't see or hear any plan for positioning, any plan for expansion, growth, or receiving that growth, because it's coming whether we like it or not.
Right.
And obviously I'm biased with helping Neil with his campaign. I saw a vision. I saw what we could be. Even with Wes Whitman running as the Democrat, he talked about Tyler County and Jasper being the gateway to the lakes.
Sure.
And how we can position ourselves and do more recreational economy, have more bed and breakfast, have more motels. But you got to have things for them to do.
Yeah.
You got to have things for people to exit when those highways start coming through.
Right.
Big talking point of the campaign was give people a reason to exit.
Yeah.
What are we giving our kids, another sticking point, to do here? What are we giving tourists to do here? There's quite a few attractions, but you can't find them online, and that's as a web designer and developer, that's so frustrating to me. And there's a lot of younger, my generation entrepreneurs who are moving here, who recognize we need to change on the digital frontier as well, because we're stuck. There is a beaver dam of progress in Tyler County and rural communities in general. Because of the byline, that's just the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
And just because we've always done it that way doesn't make it right, doesn't make it wrong either, but could it be improved?
Well, what it does, you just said it right there. What the beaver dam does is trickles out enough water for all of us to continue to survive.
Yeah.
Barely. And it doesn't keep us in a positive or negative place. It keeps us in more of a neutralized place.
Very much.
And so to me, a lot, once again, you go back to the names that have run these communities for decades.
Very much so.
You start looking around and you see some of the names on these street signs, and some of those names are still relevant today. Mm-hmm. And not saying that our generation gets to a point to where we are disrespectful about history, but we almost have to take in consideration that the history is what brought us to this point to consider.
Exactly.
To consider what's going to be positive and moving forward for the communities, as we grow into the next 2 decades, because like you say, we've said this, I've said this before, a number of people have said this before. The next 20 years for Southeast Texas is going to see an influx, and you're going to look up and you're not going to know who your neighbor is. Here's what's crazy. I live in Newton County. 2 houses got bought right next to us. Mm-hmm. Have no idea where they came from. They're outsiders. And now I'm talking to one of the ladies who moved in. She's from Miami. Mm-hmm. And why you'd move from Miami, I have no idea. But she moved south. She moved to Newton, Texas. But she is obviously an outsider. That's going to bring a whole new perspective on how things move forward, especially at election time.
Very much so.
And
that was the biggest things as a poll watcher. This was my first time ever poll watching. One of the biggest things that I noticed, and talking with other poll watchers who, we had our little AAR, or after action review.
Yeah.
We talked about it, and one of the things that stood out to me was that comment. A lot of people were coming to the clerk, coming to the judge, asking questions, figuring out. They were there for the state and federal election.
Yeah.
They had no idea about flipping the page and that there was a local election, so they just circled Republican for the most part.
Right.
The comment that stood out to me was, "Hi, we're new here."
Yeah.
More than once did I hear that as the preface to them, "Hey, we just moved here. I'm making sure we're registered to vote. Hey, we updated our license. We're from California, God forbid, but we're from a new place. We came here a couple years ago. We're just figuring things out." And as a transplant myself, at least being that bridge and that gateway of the, really new people who are just moving here, and the bridge between the old regime, if you will, I don't see myself as the bridge, so please don't mistake.
Right.
But being able to say, I've been here long enough to see that family lineage run everything, but I also see, hey, there's a lot of new people. Let's talk over to the side real quick, and then let's have these conversations. Because at the end of the day, I've said this, and it sounds disparaging, but there's just an oppressive force in small communities, Tyler County being one of them, Woodville being one of them, where it is the same few families, and there's no disrespect intended with, the last names holding that, that barrier, that dam, if you will. There's no disrespect there, but at the end of the day, you have an opportunity to move. You can go to Colorado or Montana or Florida, wherever you want to go, because of the legacy you've built, and more power to you.
Right.
But it seems to be at the cost of the individuals who are barely making it by, who can't afford their next meal, or who are looking for the next pantry to get their clothes and their food.
Yeah.
I belong to an organization. I'm one of the core team members of Sleep in Heavenly Peace, and we build beds for children in our community that have no beds.
Okay.
And between Jasper, Newton, and even Polk County, where we have a limited reach, but we have a reach enough, 500 kids in the last 2 years is who we've been able to serve in just 2 years. 500 children in Woodville, Spurger, Warren, all these small pockets, but Tyler County as a whole, and now Jasper County, as we've expanded, is seeing these homes, seeing these families, and I'm just, it's humbling, but it's also eye-opening as to what could we be doing better.
Yeah.
And that's what Concerned Citizens is about, is what could we be doing better so that we don't have those types of situations. And we're always, the Bible even says we'll always have poverty.
Right.
But those with affluence and those with the means should, and not to say that they aren't, be doing more.
Yeah.
And I know that someone's going to read into that and say that's some progressive socialist, ideology, but at the end of the day, take care of your neighbor. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, and what's crazy is there's a lot of folks out here who take a lot of pride in the giving to groups like St. Jude and stuff like that, and nothing against St. Jude, but at the end of the day, if you're not cleaning up around your own back door, you're overlooking local stewardship, and basically, because you're writing that check to whatever that massive organization is, you feel like you've done your due diligence.
Right.
We're in a way in these small communities required just by the sheer nature of, and everybody in Southeast Texas is religious. Okay, you ask them, they're all Christians. But for me, you're always going to deal with the poor. But should our children in this community, or in this entire region, should any of our children be going to sleep on the floor?
No. Not at all.
That's insanity to me.
It is.
With as much money as in Tyler County, much money is in Jasper and Newton County, these three counties, There is no reason a baby should have to lay down on the floor to go to sleep.
Or share with 4 other siblings on a mattress on the floor.
Exactly.
I mean, some of the situations that we've seen, and hopefully I don't get in trouble for saying some of these examples, but you walk into a house and there's a large screen TV, not a big screen TV,
Sure.
but a large screen TV. And granted, that TV is on the floor, but so are their children.
Yeah.
On a pile of clothes, and that's as good as they could do. And a lot of these situations, it's a divorce, or there's a lot of
They
financial.
just end up in that shape.
They just end up in that shape. But the ones that are plainly obvious, that are just malfeasance on the parents' part, is heartbreaking. Because as an organization, as a national organization, Sleep in Heavenly Peace, we don't go into homes and say, you need to X, Y, and Z.
Sure.
We're there to deliver a bed, brand new mattress, brand new sheets and pillows. And for me, as I'm leaving, I sit down with the kids when we make a delivery, and I watch a lot of business mentorship, a lot of gurus, if you will. And one of the things that I always take away from that, and reading a lot of military books, is make your bed.
Right.
And so I tell the kids it's a perfect opportunity.
Right.
Hey, volunteers put these beds together. These volunteers are here. We put this bed together for you.
Yeah.
You see how the bed's made today? I've only got 3 rules for you keeping this bed. They're always going to keep the bed. We're not going to take them away. First rule is make your bed. Do you know why you make your bed? Because it's the first victory that you'll have that day.
Right.
And I know some of these kids go to school, to public school, and they're bullied, they're picked on, they're not doing quite well, they're having trouble academically. So if you can set them up for a little bit of success and say, hey, make your bed, that's your first win of the day. Then you tie your shoes. You just keep stacking victories and trying to do a little bit.
Yeah.
What little I can and what little these other volunteers can do. But in the same vein, Concerned Citizens is about that same message.
Yeah.
Make your bed.
Sure.
If you're not looking around and saying, maybe we could clean up a little bit. Maybe we shouldn't have things strung out all over our parking lots. Maybe we shouldn't have a dilapidated motel ready to be condemned.
Yeah.
What could we be doing? And I think our city council actually is moving forward with that specific example. But how do we attract entrepreneurs and business folks, restaurateurs, hotel moguls, if you will, hotel moguls, to bring in that industry so that we can grow, so that we can flourish? So at the heart of Concerned Citizens is the word concerned.
Right.
But that's not always negative, because we promote local businesses, we promote events, we promote church events that are happening.
Sure.
And I always say, if I don't see it, I can't promote it. So send it to me.
Yeah.
I can't be on the internet all day. It might be what I do for a living, but I can't be on Facebook all day.
Right.
So I encourage folks who are out there who have community events or have whatever going on. I don't live in Fred or Spurger, and I can't make it down there all the time. But if you can send me a private message about your potluck or about this fundraiser that you're putting together, Concerned Citizens will do that. And
so anything having to do with community news,
Exactly.
community events, community anything in Tyler County, shoot it to you.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we are happy to. We don't charge for it. We don't ask for anything.
Right.
The thought of monetizing it has never crossed my mind, because it's a public service to me at this point.
Okay.
It's my ministry, if you will.
Okay.
And it's my ability to get that information to a community that, unfortunately, the Booster is only a once-a-week publication, and by the time you may or may not read it, the event's either passed or the information's irrelevant.
Sure.
And we have to be able to move at the speed of light. And Concerned Citizens, over the last 6 years, has built an audience that can reach 50,000 people on a given 28-day span. So why not? Yeah, we've drummed up some controversy here and there, and that's going to happen. But we are a tool, we are a platform for the community to be able to come together, share information, share the truth, and hopefully come to a logical conclusion, not a irrational, emotional conclusion,
Right.
and just keep moving forward.
So there's I've moved into towns where I was the outsider. I'm kind of in one of those right now, and there's I don't know if it's openly said, but one of the feelings that I get, and I don't get this from Newton County at all, although this may be a feeling that I'm not aware of. But I have moved into town where I knew I was the outsider. And it's almost like there's a belief that you're either A, running from someone, or you broke down here and you couldn't get out. So my question for you would be, when we were talking before we started, you chose to move here.
100%.
Why?
That was a question we got for the first few months that we lived here.
Okay.
We would go into a feed store and we were just raising, we were starting our homesteading journey.
Yeah.
And people would give us that unfamiliar look. Hey, where y'all coming from?
Yeah.
Well, we just moved here from Houston. Why'd you move to Woodville? Why not?
Yeah.
And that journey in and of itself was just, I was in corporate America long enough. If you've ever read the book, Where's My Cheese, or Who Moved My Cheese, that was me, chasing after things, going for that corner office. And I had it. Had the corner office, had the title, director, da-da-da-da-da behind my name, and working at a technology and consulting company. I had that. I loved it. But I wanted something different. My wife and family, we wanted something different. And, you can only spend so many hours on YouTube researching how to start a homestead. You got to just get out there and do it.
That's right.
And when the opportunity presented itself, our company, who was based out of Jacksonville, Florida, in Houston, they said, we're going to sublease the building, everyone go home and work. So I was working from home back in 2016, earlier on, before that, and had the opportunity to make a very good income, work from home, have that freedom. And that entrepreneurial bug was always in the back of my mind.
Okay.
And when that opportunity presented itself, we were like, let's take this show on the road. And at the time we had an RV and we contemplated going full-time RVing.
Right.
It just wasn't for us.
Okay.
God bless the families that can do it,
Sure,
especially with the amount of kids. We have 6 kids, and
Okay.
at the time they were all living at home. It wasn't going to happen. And my wife is a homebody. She loves being planted somewhere.
Sure.
And so we looked all over Texas. We knew we were not going to leave Texas.
Okay.
But we didn't want to be so far away from family that was in Houston and friends that were in Houston that we had kind of a 4-hour, 5-hour window around Houston that we knew we were going to visit. So for about 3 months, we did the research. I'm a spreadsheets guy, so I literally had a HAR spreadsheet downloaded on my computer, and I would send it to my wife, and I was like, as long as there is internet at this address, we're good.
Yeah.
That also led me into deep research of rural internet and the lack thereof. Ended up finding a service that would be amenable to what I needed to do, and so that kind of opened it up a little bit more, and I was like, okay, we can use this provider, and we can move anywhere. So that opened up the floodgates, and my wife started poking around.
Wow.
And so distinctly, to get to the point, we were looking at a house in Jasper.
Okay.
It was the house, 7 acres, beautiful 2-story, had a pond. It was move-in ready. The problem with that is it was built by a contractor. And so we knew we weren't going to be able to negotiate. So during that look at that house, we were actually looking at 5 other houses in this area.
Right.
And our current home in Woodville was the 3rd stop of 5 stops.
Okay.
The Jasper house being the 5th and last. When we made it to the Jasper house, and my wife and I were driving back on 190, we're like, there's something about that Woodville house. Let's go take a look at it again by ourselves, because we had our in-laws and our realtor. And we called up the realtor and said, hey, can we just poke around a little bit more and just look by ourselves? We won't go in the house. They said, yeah. So we looked around and we just saw it. The vision was there. The potential was there.
Sure.
All the things I see in the county.
Yeah.
There's a potential. And without hesitation, we called and said, we'd like to make an offer on this house. We went back and forth. Long story short, 4th of July weekend, we moved in, and here we are.
There you go.
So yeah, I mean, I am an outsider to the point where I wasn't born.
Yeah, you weren't born here, and you don't have a street name.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I am a Texan.
Right. Sure.
I'm an American. I'm a naturalized citizen because I wasn't born in America, so I'm even more of an outsider.
Right.
So I mean, all the deck is truly stacked against me when we say outsider.
Sure.
I wasn't born in this country.
Okay. Where were you born?
Nicaragua.
Okay.
Managua, Nicaragua, Central America, nowhere near Mexico.
Okay.
Or Honduras.
Right.
I moved to Florida with my mom, single parent home. We moved from Florida to Texas to California. I know I said the dirty word, but we lived in California for about 2 years, very young age. And then we finally settled in Houston, and I've lived in Houston all my life.
Okay.
Migrated from Alief, Southwest Houston, all the way to Memorial, all the way up to Cypress. And then when we lived in Cypress, my wife and I got married. And then that's the story I just told you about moving out here. But truly, I mean, the deck has been stacked against me in that capacity.
Sure.
Because I don't look like everyone else. I don't talk like everyone else in terms of, any sort of accent or familial connections. That I literally have no connections to Tyler County. Yeah. There was nothing here that said, come to Tyler County. It was just at home.
Even when you got here, and, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to step on any toes, but when you have new people move to town, the thing not to say is, why did you move here? That's not a good sales.
It's not attractive.
That's not a good sales.
Why not?
Yeah. It's exactly right. Yeah. Who played the trick on me?
Yeah.
I mean, it's, although there is a warm and friendliness of Southeast Texas, there's also a very kind of a naturally inclined built-in standoffishness.
Yeah.
And
I will say, people were very welcoming. In the process of them asking where y'all from, was welcome, and we're glad to have you.
Okay.
It was very welcoming to that extent until I became concerned citizens of Tyler County.
Sure.
And then I found out, oh, this person's related to that person's related to that person's related to this person, and I just stepped on that person's toes.
Yeah.
And
or they're going to have a conference call when we leave this conversation, and they're all going to be in the know before next Thursday.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah, I've ended up in a few of those myself, and it's to me, it's kind of it's almost like in a way, we're beginning to ease out into more of through technology. We have the benefit of being able to have these editorialized type of platforms or editorialized pieces that we throw into these platforms. To me, there's a lot of older people, and I would say 65 plus, who are not, they're not all into websites. They're not all into this. They're not all into that. They're not gaming online and this type of thing. But they're all on Facebook. At least a good majority are on Facebook. And so for us, I mean, even with Not on the Payroll, we have had a lot of good reach within that older community. I'm sitting here looking at our demographics, and I'm going,
mostly women 65 to 78. And I'm like, okay.
That's exactly right. And I'm sitting here going, my wife says, does that say 70%
women,
females?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what it's saying. And so
it's the beards.
And it's
they keep coming from the beards.
That's right. The man bod, or the dad
bod.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I think there's a interesting point in that because we are from the outside, honestly, I'm not looking, when we talk progressive, we want to see, I, at least from my angle, and I feel like this is the same thing coming from your angle. We want to see industry that comes to these communities that support the idea of family, that support the idea of economic responsibility.
Yes.
Also, ecological responsibility.
Yep.
We want to see those three things, what supports family, economy, and ecology. We want to see those things here so that we can all continue to we can all continue to move forward, and people be able to not just pay their bills, but put a little back in savings if that's what they want to do, or invest in a business if that's what they want to do, or be able to give money to organizations like Sleep in Heavenly Peace. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because to me, this is all about brothers and sisters taking care of each other in a way. I hate to use kind of a religious colloquialisms, but to me, it really is about us taking care of those who are here in this community. Because yes, we do have a welcoming energy here, as long as you don't stay here too terribly long. And
shake things up.
And piss off the wrong people. You know what I mean? And it's really not even about that. It's more about, hey, let's put the information out there. Let's let the citizens decide. Let's move forward.
Right. That's it.
And
I've noticed, just in the time that I've been here, there's this false dichotomy of us versus them, red and white. I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative. These are labels that help me make informed decisions about how I want to live my life.
Yeah.
But when we start putting ourselves into those only circles,
Right.
then
Echo chambers.
Yeah. Then you don't know what the other side is saying. If you don't get your 45 minutes of propaganda, as my friend puts it, listening to the other side of the aisle and what they have to say, then you'll never understand.
Yeah.
And a lot of this is, I believe, from the book Crucial Conversations. You have to listen with the intent to understand, not with the intent to debate. And if you want to debate me, we can go all day. I will debate somebody. I'm well known for it at this point. I'm infamous for debating people. But if you want to have a conversation and you want to bounce ideas around, because I'm going to come to the table knowing I don't have all the answers. Knowing I don't have all the education, that I am ignorant of certain things.
Sure.
But you have a wealth of information that I don't have. You have world experience that I don't have. And if we can come together, and it sounds, I'm trying not to make it sound like that's not happening. But we can see that on the surface, that's what ends up coming up. It's us versus them. The conversations that are happening, that's where you can put your tinfoil hat on and say, well, they're happening in back rooms, and it's this family talking to that family, or this exec talking to that exec. But the community is left out of that. And I created Concerned Citizens. It's nothing new. There's always been watchdog groups. There's always been citizen journalists. I remember watching Tim Pool in 2008 being in the middle of protests. All he's doing is he's got a camera and he's showing what's happening. He's not really giving much commentary. He's not really giving too much editorial. Here's what it is. Now you make an informed decision. Well, I'm certainly not moving to Portland anytime soon. So, I mean, what Concerned Citizens, what your platform does, what any online platform, I can still recognize legacy. I have a wonderful relationship with the folks at Tyler County Booster. I think, at least 5 or 6 editorials that have been published in there. So I maintain a wonderful relationship with them because I recognize you're going to reach a demographic that I can't. Either they don't have a cell phone with a good internet connection and they're just not going to get on Facebook for the next couple of days, or they're just not interested in the drama of social media. And that's a whole nother topic that we could probably touch on, is people talk about how toxic social media is. And to a certain degree, I might say, it can be. But social media is just a tool. No different than the cell phone in your hand, no different than the newspaper. It is just a tool, and what you do with it will ultimately transform what it becomes. Can it become toxic? Yes. Has it been toxic in the past? Certainly. But if we can be a force of good and progressive ideas that aren't, letting young men into girls' restrooms, we're not talking about that. Moving forward. Walt Disney quotes, we keep moving forward, we keep opening new doors because we have an imagination. And there's a lot of smart business people here, a lot of smart individuals. And some of them that have talked to me are just plain scared. They support what we do, but they will never put their face, their name to what we do because they're scared law enforcement might come down on them, literally, because they're related to such and such, or this person's related to such and such. The family tree of our elected officials is but a branch. It doesn't go very far. Because this elected official is married to this county employee, and their daughter, son, uncle, brother runs the maintainer or is on the crew. And it doesn't go very far. And it presents this opportunity dam for a lot of citizens. We talk about, my son or my husband has to drive 2 hours to Port Arthur because he can't find a job here. Well, most of the jobs that are here are county jobs. You start looking at the last names on the roster, and they're all the same. We had a political advertisement that was done during the campaign that this family supports a particular candidate. It's all the same names, because it's a family, but they're all the same. And all that tells me is we're just wanting to keep things the same. We don't want to change things, and change and progress and all these trigger words start coming up, and they're like, why don't you just go back to where you came from? And I've heard that on a number of occasions. If you don't like it here, why don't you just leave? I could.
Yeah.
I chose to live here. Don't forget that. But you keep telling enough people, if you don't like it here, leave.
Yeah.
Guess what's going to happen to your taxes? Mm-hmm. You're not thinking about that. You're just mad at me.
Right.
Get out of here. We don't like you. Go back to Houston.
Sure.
Okay. Well, have you looked at the statistics? The projected decline in our population in Tyler County is 1 to 3% year over year. We're sitting at 19,000.
Yeah.
And we're talking about 1% decrease in population.
Right.
We have no industry. We have no jobs. We have no recreation. We have the highest taxes of the 10 surrounding counties around us. And you're telling me I should just leave and not try to make it better so that maybe further down the line those taxes could eventually come down?
Yeah.
No. You just want to react and have an emotional outburst because I've triggered you somehow and you want me to just leave. Shut up and leave. Yeah. I'm taking my ball and I don't want to play with you anymore.
Yeah.
And if we can't have rational, sane, mature conversations, then stay out of it because I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing.
You know what's interesting to me is that it's almost like, in a way, when an outsider comes in and begins to challenge
status quo.
Well, it's not even really status quo. Just to say, hey, do you guys realize that this one-way street here would be better served if we put 2 lanes on it running opposite directions? Oh, well, that's so-and-so street. Mm-hmm. He's the one who there's a belief that just because you bring up a question that you are here to destroy the foundation of what their current world is built on.
Right. And
so consequently, what I feel like is a hurdle is that if the old heads in these communities understood that if they would sit down and have dialogue, not a pissing contest, not an anatomy measuring contest, okay? But have dialogue with some people who are coming in, seeing this thing from a fresh perspective, and say, hey, have you guys considered? The quicker that the old heads embrace what little changes come out of those dialogues, it's just going to continue to fortify their legacy as leaders in the community.
Agreed.
And to me, whenever you have people who are concerned about retaliation, I think that just shows how juvenile the community is as a whole. Yeah. If they're now, granted, I've had retaliation on me to an unnerving point with some of the things we've been able to get into. But until we're all able to sit down, and I think some of this goes back to economic status, because people who are affluent or have money normally they get to a point to where they don't want to hear what the commoner has to say, especially if they get in places of position where they have a little bit of control over certain things. But I feel like these open dialogues are so valuable for these communities just to consider potentials, because here's what happens to me. If I move into a community, I start looking around, and I am thankful. I had something that drew me there, right? Just like you did with Woodville. I had something that drew me here, and I start looking around to see how I can make it better. Yeah. The people who actually are running most of these counties, they don't have a history of getting outside these 4 walls on the county. Most of them, they're stretched to go up to Lufkin or Beaumont to do any shopping. And for me, I kind of sit here and I'm like, okay, when you have new blood come in, that's not just new tax money, but that's also ideas that we can share in. Yeah. And we collectively come together and we all see how we can do better by our citizens. Because if you are an elected official in any one of these communities, your entire job is to do good on behalf of not just the county employees, but the whole county. Yeah. And so for me, if you're out there right now and you kind of like what we're talking about, or you like the content of what we're providing, go over and click the like, share, and follow. Also wanted to bring up, we're having this sit down at the venue. Now tell us a little bit about that if you.
Yeah, so it's on the corner of Charleston and 190.
Used to be a florist.
Used to be a flower shop,
Okay.
Dee's Flower Shop. The owner, Elizabeth Grammer, very good friend. She's helped us along the way throughout the campaign. She was also running for treasurer during the primary election. Her and our county treasurer actually opened up the venue.
Okay.
And it's a local sit-down spot. They have tea parties. They have craft nights. They use it for baby showers and any sort of.
So you can
small
just
event.
rent the place and then bring whatever you've got. So we appreciate you guys at the venue.
Thank you,
here
Elizabeth,
for letting us sit down. There were some specific points you wanted to kind of touch on, specific to the CCTC.
Mm-hmm.
Hit on some of that.
With regard to what our mission is.
Yes.
So, I mean, we want to continue. This was birthed out of an information vacuum.
Okay.
There was a lack of it. People didn't know where to get it. And so I just did it. Mm-hmm. I know how to use the internet. I can type. I can speak.
And you're accessible.
And I'm accessible. So I took to the internet and created Concerned Citizens of Tyler County. We also have a private Facebook group.
Okay.
And we use the group as kind of the, the vetting process of here's an issue, now let's bring it up to the public page.
Okay.
So a lot of people get confused. Which one is it? Well, there's the group and then there's the actual page.
Right.
Everyone has access to the group. You're free to be polite and courteous and follow all the rules. But people bring up issues there. I remember distinctly there was the halfway house in Danby that was trying to get started, and the watchdog group out there, the citizens out there that were neighborhood watch, trying to get the information out there. Well, it's so localized to the Danby community that it wasn't getting out. And so having formed relationships with the folks over there, I was able to just say, hey, go take a look at the information that Danby is presenting. And through the help of James White, our former state representative, and the conversations that they were already having, Concerned Citizens was merely able to project it out there much more, bring more light to it. So that was one of the issues that happened with the American Rescue Plan Act, was there was things happening in the background that nobody knew about. And one of our concerned citizens, who happens to be one of the admins as well, brought it to the table. Hey guys, have you been watching the minutes? Have you been looking at the YouTube live streams? What's going on with this American Rescue Plan Act? And long story short, what it is in our opinion, and the facts back up these opinions, that our county government misappropriated the American Rescue Plan Act funds to pay themselves. End of story, full stop. The Texas Constitution, Article 3, Section 53, specifically talks about what elected officials can and cannot do to steer public funds to their own wallets. It turned into a years-long, and it's still going on, to the point where 12 residents have filed claims against the surety bond holding the auditor responsible, based on an email that she sent out to everyone except the treasurer and the county judge. So all four commissioners, along with a few other folks, were copied on this email where she laid out, this was my idea. The long and short of it, you can read the emails, all the documents are out there. The long and short of it is the auditor claims responsibility for doing the due diligence, for the research, and if I've done anything that was illegal, I will make it right. Well, the AG rendered a non-opinion opinion because all he did was answer the question that was asked of him regarding local government code 152.013.
Okay.
And that was about whether or not they had to post a public notice. In the footnotes, and again, this is the important part about doing research, is read those footnotes. It's tiny writing, and you might have to blow it up, or if you've got the PDF, just zoom in, pinch and zoom. Those footnotes were very telling, because in the footnotes, he specifically calls out Article 3, Section 53 of the Texas Constitution, prohibiting elected officials from steering public funds. And he, in his opinion, states, well, you didn't tell us whether or not you've done this before. So we're not going to render an opinion on whether or not it was wrong or right.
Right.
You just asked us about this public notice.
Sure.
All of that, on top of the fact that the ARPA interim final rule and the final rule specifically, without a shadow of a doubt, and if there was, they had to make a clarification, said that elected officials, and it uses those words, elected officials cannot use public funds for paying themselves. And Tyler County is not alone. There's other counties that have done it.
Newton County.
There are other counties that paid more.
Yeah.
Our county paid themselves $3,500 each as elected officials and full-time employees. Part-time and retirees, which I don't know how you can retroactively pay a retiree against the Texas Constitution. Our problem was never with employees or retirees anyways.
Sure.
It was elected officials. They gave themselves $3,500. I'm aware of a county, don't know which one, that paid them across the board, everyone, $6,000.
Wow.
So it's an unfortunate situation that obviously caused a lot of division.
Sure.
And I'm not of the opinion that concerned citizens are a divisive platform.
Okay.
If you and I don't like strawberries and I like mangoes, we're divided.
Yeah.
Everyone is divided no matter what.
I normally don't trust people who eat mangoes.
But, you know, put a little salt on it, you might change your mind. It's a Nicaraguan thing. But, you know, people said that we're so divisive and we're always stirring the pot. If the truth stirs the pot, I'm going to keep stirring it. Because when you don't stir the pot, the little bits at the bottom get burnt and taste real funky, and it messes up the whole stew.
Right.
I know a little bit about cooking, so I like that analogy. So, I mean...
Did anybody else, not to cut you off, but did anybody else come out with this information? Any other Tyler County Booster, KJS?
They reported it. You know, I did a
Tyler County Booster reported it?
They reported on us talking about it.
Okay.
That's the funny part. They're not investigative journalists.
Gotcha.
By no stretch of the imagination.
More bulletin board type stuff.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And that's not to be disparaging of them.
No,
they presented what was out there.
It's a resource.
I got up in front of our commissioner's court, and this made the headlines. It was front page. Concerned citizens demand elected officials return their money. I gave them an ultimatum. I presented all the case law that supported what I was trying to say. I had a lot of research behind me, a lot of resources who were helping with that research. I think a lot of people misconstrue that Concerned Citizens is just Sal and was Sal and Neil. There are other people that don't want to have their face out there.
Right.
I used to have a YouTube channel. I'm very social. I'm very active on social media. I just can get out there. I don't have a problem with putting my face and my name out there and taking the heat. I can take the arrows. But I got up in front of Commissioner's Court and demanded that they give the money back. So that was the extent of the reporting that was done in local media.
Okay.
No other that I'm aware of,
local
or outside of Tyler County media has really given a care about it.
What have they done since the ultimatum?
The 12 claims have been sent to the bond company.
Now, okay, let's stop right there, because a lot of people don't understand this process.
I've learned that.
A lot of people don't understand it.
I understand that.
And so explain how this works, because all elected officials, from what I understand, have to carry on. They have to carry
it's an insurance policy.
An insurance policy, basically saying that if you screw up, this pays. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that's a surety bond.
A surety bond.
Okay.
And so in the research that we found is that if there are enough claims against an elected official or appointed official's bond, any school boards,
right?
There's a great website out there called bondsforthewin.com, which is the basis of where we got this information. And so the legal research that was being done to prepare this document, these claims, was sent out to the surety bond company.
Okay.
They responded. The response was not something that we were anticipating, but basically said, sorry, this bond isn't actually not good for the person that you're trying to file against, and it's actually held in Bexar County. And so we had to pump the brakes on that. The 12 residents who came to us with that information, they were just like, that wasn't expected. You file a claim and they either pay out or the claim gets dropped, or rather the bond gets dropped. And so if an elected official can't hold the bond, they are removed from office. So I mean, read between the lines that what the goal was there was to remove certain individuals from office that the residents felt were key players, head of the snake, if you will. I'm not ashamed to say that. I have no problems continuing to step on those toes, because there needs to be a change.
Do you feel
from the top down?
Do you feel like it's actual corruption, or do you feel like it's ignorance?
I struggled with that question a lot, because you want to believe that people are good. Okay. You want to believe that people are well-intentioned, and I still do to a certain degree. And was it ignorance? Was it malfeasance? Was it just dereliction of duty? Probably. I think it might have been. The other side of me recognizes that there is, I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, there's a lot of evil in this world.
Okay.
And people have bad intentions. I only need to open up the headlines to read about some 49-year-old guy molesting a 9-year-old child.
Right.
There's evil in this world. People have evil intent. And I'm not comparing a child molester to an elected official, although sometimes they happen to be the same.
Okay.
If you told me I could get $3,500 and not get caught, my intuition might be, well, what's the catch? These people didn't seem to think about what the catch was. They just saw a free check. They could give their cousin a free check, their uncle a free check, their husband, because again, a lot of elected officials are also county employees who are married to county employees, who have children who are county employees.
Right.
So as a whole, $492,000 of our taxpayers' money went to pay a few families in our community. And that is heartbreaking, because I know a lot of people out there who have been following this fight are probably feeling a little bit of the defeat. Oh, this corruption will never end. The good old boys, if you will, keep winning. Why should we keep speaking up? And to a certain degree, I can feel that disenfranchisement within myself, because
Right.
You're like, man, what did I invest so much time and money and life out of?
Right.
Did I put my family in danger in some of these certain
Right.
Instances? Was it worth it? And I think as champions of truth and trying to make things better, you just pick yourself back up and say, you know what, on to the next fight. And the government has up to 10 years anyways to claw back that money. So there might be a headline 10 years from now that says every elected official from 2020 in Tyler County has been arrested or has had to pay retribution for this. Ultimately, Newton County, Tyler County, whatever county paid out their elected officials with those clawbacks. Who's paying for it? The taxpayers are going to pay for that.
Yeah.
They're not going to. Half of these people spent that $3,500 before they even got the check.
Yeah.
So to say that they're going to pay it back, I know it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have been sitting down with Sal Baldovinos.
That's it.
Got it. With Concerned Citizens for Tyler County. If you are out there and you are interested in what's going on in Tyler County, that's the place to go. Also, check out your Tyler County booster, but definitely check out Concerned Citizens for Tyler County, because it sounds to me like we're like little investigative editorializers out here who are doing the best we can just to try to keep information out to the public. And so, is there anything that you want to kind of finish up with and just say to the people of Tyler County, and maybe anybody who's outside of Tyler County who's listening?
First and foremost, with the slaughterhouse, I didn't know the first thing about a slaughterhouse, so I had to do that research. So it's imperative that if you are challenged with an idea, to just simply go research it. And if you still come to the same conclusion, then fine. That's right. As long as you're well researched. And you've educated yourself on the topic. The Concerned Citizen's name and identity is nothing unique. There's absolutely no lightning that struck me, no divine intervention. There have always been individuals in a community that are willing to speak up, take a little mud on the face, take a little egg on the face from time to time, but can still move forward, understanding that there is good to be done and that there are good people who will follow you, even if, at the end of the day, they go away. If you're needing a place, a safe place, if you will, to share ideas, sometimes you have to create it.
Right.
You can't go looking for it.
Sure.
And that's the entrepreneurial mindset as well. If there's no jobs around here, well, maybe you should create the job. Yeah. Maybe you should create that idea that you've been sitting on. And that goes along with some of my business background and just listening to the mentors that I've had in my life, is just get up and do it.
Yeah.
No one's going to hand you, well, unless you're in county, no one's going to hand you a free check. No one's going to hand you free money. You just got to do the work.
Yeah.
And when it comes to sharing information and sharing ideas, it can be a very lonely and scary place. And I'll freely admit that there's been times where I just, I've had to talk Neil off a ledge, and Neil has had to talk me off a ledge. Like, okay. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
What is these people, and I say that generally, don't want change. There's a little bit of abrasiveness in that. It's just like, what do we do this for?
Yeah.
But then you talk to the friend or the patriot over at the local eatery, and they're just like, thank you for what you do.
Yeah.
And that changes everything.
Sure.
It takes one of those to just recharge my batteries. And it happens more often than not. People stop us at Walmart, stop us at where we're eating. Hey, don't want to disturb you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for the things that you've said. We need someone to shake things up. We need some of this.
Yeah.
And so if at the end of the day I can fill a need, and when I say it's not just me.
Right.
If concerned citizens, if there are other people who are willing to stand up, and you don't have to put your face on a camera all the time.
Right.
You can, the pen is mightier than the sword. If
Yeah.
you can write something good, if you can write an editorial, if you can write a blog post, and just bring information to people. We are in an information age where we are excuseless. We have zero excuse not to be informed.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the election, if you go in there and you have a ballot and you're just staring at names that you don't recognize, and you're just circling it because it has an R next to it or a D next to it, I'm guilty of it. But I've taken the steps to educate myself to know who I'm voting for and why.
Yeah.
I guess if at the end of the day, if I had a billboard on a podcast that I used to host, I used to ask this final question: if you had access to a billboard, what would your message be? It's just know thyself and then do something with it, because knowledge isn't power. It's the action that you do with that knowledge. That's the power. Because I can sit on all the wealth in the world.
Sure.
But never do anything with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. You've been listening to Not on the Payroll right here at notonthepayroll.com. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Rumble. Look for the gorilla with the red headphones, and you will have found us on our social medias. And we appreciate you guys for listening. Appreciate you, Sal, for sitting down with us and kind of opening up about concerned citizens and some of the topics going on here in the podcast.